Welcome to the Mikey Likes You podcast. I am Mikey, who is liking, and you are you who likes. I'm joined, at least at the beginning of this podcast, by a very special guest, my daughter, and
me.
one of the most important things that's ever come into my life, Magnolia Moon Catherwood. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
It's my pleasure. Can remember like 10 seconds before we went on the podcast, I told you don't look at the screen. I'll do this. So, I would describe you as someone who's really healthy, both your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. You're
And also, I'm healthy in sorts of what to do.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm not the sort of kid that like every second wants to watch TV. I'm the kind of kid who's like, I go to bed late because I'm crafting all night.
You do love arts and crafts, and although being creative is amazing, mm-hmm. I think it does come with its downsides, though, don't you think?
Yes.
What do you think some of those are? Because I know what I feel like.
Sometimes, like, if I'm up late crafting, then I stop and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call it a day. I'm really tired and I'm good. I walk upstairs. 5 minutes later, I'm starting to drift out of sleep. My mom yells, Magnolia Moon, Catherine, clean up this mess right now! And I just stagger downstairs and clean it all up.
And that's a very compelling story, but what's the moral of that? Why is that a bad thing about being creative? Because
you do all this fun stuff, right?
What's that?
You do all this fun stuff, right?
Yes,
and you create, you have a great time.
Painting.
Yeah.
You just made a clay figure.
Yeah, you make a whole mess. And then when you're done, you have to clean it all up. And that takes and most of the time I'm up late, really late crafting. So yeah, that's helpful.
Okay.
Really helpful.
Well, I was going to say that being creative, and Papa's definitely a creative person. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to speak to the quality of the things that I create, but I create things every day. Every single day that goes by.
Whether it's a chicken coop or...
Yeah, help building chicken coop, drawing pictures, putting together, playing songs, writing songs for, either Rudy writes a song or Papa writes a song, right?
Yeah, but sometimes in different ways. In one way, you're more crafty than me, like in the chicken coop world, or
like construction and
construction and drawing. But I'm the kind of person that likes clay,
mm-hmm.
Painting on things that maybe aren't meant to be painted on. I'm the kind of abstract painter in the sense of what to paint on.
Okay, and you think Papa has a little bit more narrow kind of stuff that he focuses in on. Yeah,
like building, drawing. But I'm just everywhere. I'll paint anything, honestly.
Well, you're kind of everywhere all the time as a person. Sure. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why it's hard for you oftentimes to clean up after yourself, because you've moved on to 4 other things by the time you're done with.
That's why the house is a mess.
That's why the house is a mess, yes. And that's okay. It's just, that's who you are. And that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was saying that being creative can be the most exceptional thing in the world. I mean, creating art is really what makes humans different from all other animals in the kingdom, right? Animals make things, but they usually make it for function. Humans are the only thing, I think, the only animal or creature that makes things just to be appreciated.
Yeah.
But it's hard to concentrate a lot of times, right? It's hard to stay focused.
Yeah, because sometimes if I'm half asleep, say I'm half asleep.
You're half asleep, okay.
Yeah. But I'm doing something I really love.
Okay.
And I try to stay awake so bad. But I just can't.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to listen to that go to sleep.
Okay. Again, very compelling argument. I was thinking about when as I was asking you these questions and thinking about imagination and how Papa has a lot of imagination and it's going all the time, and you have a lot of imagination and it's going all the time. We both have imaginary friends, you know? Do you want to tell them about yours?
Well, it goes back far back to when I was born. I almost
all the way back to when you were born 7 years ago?
Yeah. Well, my parents were thinking about naming me Noli. And now, you might not know, but...
Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's not true. We had already decided we were going to name you Magnolia. But yes. Your mom and I had these conversations about what we would probably end up calling you, like a nickname. Yes, and we both thought Noli. Yeah.
Yeah, they both thought Noli. But that ended up changing once I was born. It ended up being Maggie.
Or Mags. I say Mags a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and Liv calls me Mags too. If you don't know who Liv is, that's my friend.
Yes.
Real friend. But then Noli ended up being my imaginary friend. And every night when I would go to bed, my dad would tell me these stories about his imaginary friend, Abigail.
That's right.
And most of the time, I was like too young to really think straight. So I would just be like, oh, cool. He has this like imaginary friend. But it's just that doesn't really matter. I'm the present.
You're staying in the present, right? With your imaginary friend.
Excuse me, I was 5.
Yes.
I was 5.
Yeah.
And
you were far more immature back then. Yes.
Yes, I was 5. But as I grew up, I started to actually be able to see her. Mm-hmm. And the other day, I just picked them up from the airport because you left.
That's right. So you and Mom took me to the airport. Yeah. But while you were there dropping me off, you picked up Noli and Abigail. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I always thought it was so cool to have imaginary friends, to be that kind of comfortable, just understanding that your mind can create anything. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you and I, one time, we had this conversation. Do you remember this conversation? We were walking to the park in Venice, and I said, it's really awesome how you and Noli have such a great relationship. I remember how great mine was with Abigail. It's too bad I can't have that relationship with her anymore.
And then I brought her back.
And you were like, why? Yeah. And I said, well, because I'm a grown up. And you said, so? Mm-hmm. Just decide.
And then the next day, I remember when you woke up, you said, ah! And that's how, that was about a week after fairy camp. And that's how Abigail came back. And
so now she's back and a part of our life. And it just helped me. It helped me a lot.
And now she sets up scavenger hunts for me.
She does. She helps the fairies set up scavenger hunts. Uh-huh. But I just wanted to say that, like, that kind of stuff really helped me because Mom and I think a lot of other adults, you get told stuff over and over again, like little lessons. Like, you just got to believe in yourself. You just have to be able to.
Willpower's the best.
Yeah. Exactly. And I may hear it and I may recognize that something is probably true, but it's hard to kind of do it on a day-to-day basis. Yes. And it was just beautiful for me because it made me recognize and really little birdie. It made me really recognize that I can create anything. As long as I truly believe it in my mind, I could make it true, you know? Do you ever encounter that in your life?
Yeah, like that time when I was like, that day that I really had nothing to do. It was about like 6:00 in the afternoon. I was sitting down, I had nothing to do. I felt like I had done everything. And I just sat on my bed thinking to myself, I will have something to do in the next 5 minutes. I will have something to do in the next 5 minutes. I will have something to do in the next 5 minutes. But then in the middle of me saying that in my brain, I got an idea of what to do. But the time before that, the way I knew it would work and the way I tried it is because a time before that, I had said, I know I'll have something to do. I hope I'll have something to do. I hope I'll have something to do. But I gave up in the middle of saying it, and I never had something to do for the rest of the afternoon. I just sat there staring at the wall.
Stare at the wall, huh? And again, can I just get a summary of the point of that story?
It's just like, if you really put your mind on having what you want and having and doing or being, or what I'm saying is, if you believe in yourself, you can always do something.
Really anything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing. And I know you believe in yourself a lot. Mm-hmm. Do you ever have moments where you don't believe in yourself? You kind of doubt yourself?
Give me a second.
All right.
Sometimes, like, well, I go to a swimming school, and the people there are pretty strict, pretty tight, and
it's true. Yeah. Every
time I go there, sometimes I just, sometimes I wish it was more fun, because it's like the swim team with no time. It's like the swim team with no timing. And sometimes as I'm swimming, I'm just like, will I ever complete this? This is so boring. This is so long. At least I'm not just staring at my wall. But still.
That's a good point. At least I'm not staring at my wall. You always have that.
Still.
Yes.
Still. It's pretty boring.
So you're doubting yourself that you'll even be able to complete it because it's not keeping your interest.
It's not me.
It's hard. It's not keeping.
It's not me.
Yeah. No, I get that. If you had to, like, be honest, you usually always are, especially when we talk about important stuff. When you look at your life growing up, in the future, and it's important to believe in yourself and have the vision of you doing whatever you want. What is it that you want to do? What is that ideal vision of Magnolia's life, let's say 20 years from now?
Sometimes I see myself being a police officer. I really want to be a police officer.
Yeah, you came to that conclusion pretty recently, right? And what is it about being a policeman or policewoman that you find so appealing?
Well, I really like good mysteries and like fighting, like doing something for the better. And sometimes like, per se, mysteries. I really like mysteries.
You love mysteries.
Yeah.
You love them.
I'll if there's like some sort of mystery, like my dog's sitting on the floor and all the spatulas are gone. I'll go on a day's trip just to find those spatulas.
Yes.
I love
the case of the missing spatula.
Well, I love mysteries.
Yes, you do.
So,
you know what I was going to say, you just like problem solving. Like you're big on.
Not exactly.
Not really? Okay.
Because like math.
Oh, that's a good point.
Not all problem solving is good.
Okay. Oh, so you love mysteries. You love getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah. And I love how Nancy Drew just likes bad guy, damn.
And you feel like not only is getting to the bottom of a mystery something that you really enjoy, but also you like the idea of giving back to the world, right? Doing something that's good for everyone.
I like doing things that are nice. Like the time Gloria ate the last olive, I went ahead and bought a new pack.
Well, wow, what a philanthropist you are. Gloria's our dog, by the way. One of our dogs. I know, seriously, right? Supposed to be a professional broadcaster. At the beginning of when we sat down to talk, I was saying that you're a healthy person, but all over, in your body, in your soul, in your mind. One thing that I've noticed about you that both Mom and I really think is impressive is that you have an unbelievable way to control the amount of food that you eat without any. I know I don't want to make it seem like I put any limits on it, but you'll have something even like yummy ice cream or something, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm not going to finish this. I'm full.
And like the time I went to the movies and I got that like big thing of ice cream.
Yeah.
And I only ate half of it. Then you took me out and got me cream puffs, and I only ate half.
That's right. That was an extraordinary day of sweets because we don't usually go that hard, do we?
Usually I'll just have steak all day.
You love steak. You are. Makes me so proud.
And I'll eat ketchup in any meal.
You would shower in ketchup, I think, if you could. How do you weigh?
If I could disable the water system, I'd fill it all up with ketchup.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a yummy way of life. How do you balance the ability to, because you eat a lot of yummy foods that are very healthy. You eat a lot of, you were talking about steak and juicy meats, and you love lamb and fish and all these things. How do you balance that with also allowing yourself to eat this kind of yummy stuff that isn't that good for you? You know what I'm saying?
And how I stop and I don't, you mean how I know when to stop with the, ice cream for
Yeah, not necessarily. I'm not
doesn't stop in the middle of not a good enough amount of.
I'm not talking about just the limits that you put on yourself. What I'm talking about is, that it's important to eat healthy foods because it makes you feel better and it makes you healthier, your body healthier. But you understand that it's also good to keep your spirits up and have the things that maybe aren't necessarily that good for you, but they're super yummy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a good way to live your life regardless of your age. How do you kind of find balance between the two, where you don't overdo it in either direction?
Well, sometimes I'll just be eating, and all of a sudden I'm just something inside me goes okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Easy on it, and then I'll be okay, and I'll just plop my plate next to the sink. But when it comes to sugar, I'll take say 3 bites, then I'll put it away.
Yeah, impressive. I think what I think the difference is. I think a lot of people your age have that ability a little bit better than people my age or adults, because adults have stress.
Had it more.
Well, no, we have stress. But
there's no one in the world that has more stress than Gloria. She's always being attacked by Harry.
I would say that knowing a little bit more about people and their way of life around the world, there's people with a lot more stress than our dog Gloria, who understands every day she's going to get her 2 meals, and she gets really gourmet food, and she has a loving household. You got to think.
Except a loving Harry.
There's a lot of people, grown-ups. When you start to become a grown-up, you have your own kids. You have your romantic partner, and you have jobs.
And you have to pay Hampy.
And you have to pay the rent, and you have to pay the mortgage. And things get really, you get upset a lot more. And I think when you get upset and stressed out, it makes you want to eat stuff that isn't necessarily so healthy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Do you have stress in your life?
When I'm walking down to the pirate ship, that's my playground in my backyard.
Yeah.
And Gloria knocks me down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, so Gloria is one of our dogs. We have 3 dogs. She's really big, and she's really sweet, but she's really excited all the time.
And I'll just be walking down just walking on my way to the play structure. All of a sudden,
and she has many times smashed Magnolia right off her feet.
Yeah.
And I first try to control myself from laughing, and then I get really concerned that you're okay. But so since that's happened before in the past,
this morning,
you get stressed out about it's going to happen again.
Yeah, but this morning when I was sledding, I sledded, and she starts to bolt up, and she jumps into my face, literally. And
she's doing it out of love, right? She's doing.
No, she's not.
She's not.
No, no. No.
Do you think I am a good papa? You do.
Absolutely.
Honestly?
Yeah. Yes, I pretended.
Whoa. Don't. No, you're going to knock the microphone out.
Sorry. I pretended to think about it.
I thank you. I appreciate it. And you know what I think of you as a daughter. What if anything, no relationship is perfect because that's just not reality. What do I do that you think is not cool, or that is at times not good papa behavior?
Not really anything, because unless, well, when you yell at me, but like...
When do I yell at you?
You don't exactly yell at me, but when you raise your voice...
Yeah.
Sometimes that kind of scares me. But other than that...
But when do I raise my voice?
Huh? Like
it's always usually attached to something, right?
Like maybe when I steal a gummy.
That kind of stuff doesn't get me. What gets me upset?
Or like when I leave a mess out for 3 days.
I think what gets Papa upset is when
I don't listen to Mama.
Because you and I know each other. We know each other pretty darn well, right? So when you do things that are understandable mistakes, and I go, oh, well, Maggie, she made a mistake, and she'll hopefully live and learn from this mistake and go on.
Yeah, you don't have any problem. Often.
But if you continually make mistakes that I know in my heart, I know for a fact because I know you are aware that that was probably not the right thing to do, and you just continually do it, that's when Papa goes, my God!
Yeah, sometimes when you do that, I wish I could just take this not stick glue you to the ground for 5 seconds, then run away.
Let's leave the glue alone. I will allow you, because I can tell that you're getting fidgety, to go. But I want to first thank you for joining me. I know that you love this kind of stuff, and I really do appreciate it. But Papa, I always like to play and do little kid stuff with you. Mm-hmm. And I like to do that with you and your friends.
Yeah. Like, for example, yes. One of your favorite things in the world next to me and Mom is Hampy.
I actually brought Hampy on Great News, my other podcast, yesterday. But hold on. I have a question. So I really do. I love to play around with you. I love to pretend to be other characters and be pirates with you and stuff like that. Is there ever a point where you wish I wouldn't go that hard with it because it might be embarrassing or something?
Not really, because at my school, Apogee, which is a great school.
It is.
It's one of my best schools. Excuse me. It's one of my best schools yet. But sometimes he'll just come, and I really cherish those moments where, like, I'm not saying this doesn't happen frequently. Actually, it happens very frequently on the beach. Anywhere that there are kids, he gets attacked. So I really cherish those moments.
You like when I get attacked?
It's fun to attack you. You're very attackable.
Children attack me. Yes, I am attackable, apparently.
You're attackable. Even Lilith says so.
All right, go have fun. Go do little kid stuff. Thank you.
Should I get Mom?
You can get Mom. That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Mama! Yeah. You're up.
Okay, I'm back with a taller person.
Just a taller version.
A taller version of the same person. This is my wife, Bianca. Many of you know her. But also, she's been a frequent guest on my podcast. The hell is Meg's laughing at? And I love her so much.
Yay.
She's bonkers, but in all the right ways.
So are you.
Yeah, totally. But I love, and that's the thing about you and me and our relationship, I think, is that it's really easy to be fond of people or things that are just like universally happy and positive. You know what I'm saying? But I love you when it's hard. I love you when you're being cuckoo and all that stuff. And that's, I just love you for every little inch of you and all your like Marley and Me. Remember Marley and Me when he would,
yes.
The Marley would eat shit and they'd be like, oh, Marley, you're my Marley.
Oh, I was just reading a quote about relationships and about how you aren't looking at the partnership for perfection. You're looking for the person that's going to get down and dirty with you and who's going to build things with you.
Down and dirty.
And What is going on in there?
Hey, Magnolia. Can you keep it down? Or shut the door or something? Or shut the door? Get down and dirty.
And I think that's the thing is like, unfortunately, we're all kind of raised on this, fairy tale notion of the perfect relationship.
I don't know if we're all. I think oftentimes, more so than anything, it's women are raised on that, reared on the idea of, kind of like a romantic comedy. Or a Pretty Woman, or those.
Don't put it all on women.
I'm not, and I'm not saying it's women's fault. I'm actually sticking up for women in that they get programmed a lot more than young boys do. I don't know how it is anymore, but certainly, like growing up, I never had any kind of
but you
idea.
You do because of the images and because of magazines and movies. You do have. I think women may more have the kind of Prince Charming,
right,
the whole over. But I think guys definitely are in the sense of the full package, of the girl that's got it all, and who's, a 10 and whose body is a 10. And, I think that it really is true. I believe that, when you genuinely fall in love with someone, you fall in love with everything. It always reminds me of that part in Good Will Hunting where he says, like, it's the thing you don't miss the things. What does he say?
I don't know. I just remember he was telling this story about her
farting in her sleep, and he's like, it's
essentially you don't miss the things you would expect to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, and I do think that for many people, and I was one of these people, is like a lot of times we look to relationships to complete the missing part of ourselves that we don't love, that we don't love in our own selves. And so we're looking to complete it in somebody else. And that can never work. And so then it's, of course, after the honeymoon period where, everything's all goo goo gaga and, lovey dovey. And then all of a sudden in Ayurveda, everything is based on seasons. So everything is kind of done to the timing of every 3 months. Right. So in Ayurveda, it's not like a rule, but a recommendation is that you don't sleep with your significant other or with the person you're dating for 3 months. So basically you allow one season to pass before you are physically intimate with each other. And the whole point is that so you attach emotionally before you attach physically. Because a lot of times what happens is people attach physically, and that's not a sustainable attachment. That's usually an attachment based on superficial things. So, I know like when we first met and started dating, my Ayurvedic practitioner that I've been working with for years was like, I want you to just try to be, I was only supposed to see you like every other day and never 2 days in a row. And I wasn't supposed to go anywhere with you for a while that was multiple days in a row. And because she said, these are the secrets to longevity in a relationship, is that everything is very slow and that you get to know each other in that slow, intimate way.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with that. Like that never was difficult for me. Because I'd never looked at people. I never looked to people to fill those spaces, to fill those holes that I had inside. I looked to drugs and alcohol.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you.
You're laughing at our daughter,
Magnolia
yes.
is just going crazy with the dogs.
Well, I understand you were laughing at me too, because that was hysterical, talking about the soul crippling depression.
Well, that's why I felt so bad, is because I laughed and then those words came out of your mouth, and I
did think that drugs and alcohol was going to do that, and it did for a while, and then it actually made those holes bigger, and it expanded, it strengthened how much I needed to fill those. But, I just got so fucked up in my own head of thinking, first off, thinking that I wasn't ever going to be able to fill those holes, and therefore, if I were to let someone in close to me, I feel bad for them.
Do you feel like you were really cognizant of the fact that there were holes? Like, do you?
Oh, yeah. But that's also, look, I had, by the time I met you, gone through decades of therapy, and I had been in recovery for a long time.
Yeah.
And committed to. There was certainly periods where I was more disciplined than others, but I was, let's see, 2011-ish. So, I was close to like a 9 to 10 years sober when you met me.
Yeah.
And I had, really been forced to identify those holes, those shortcomings, and those character flaws, at least as I perceive them. And then I had to do something about that. So whether or not I was aware of them is unquestionable. I absolutely was. Whether or not I had them right,
right.
I may have even gotten wrong what I thought my holes that needed to be filled were, but the holes were there in my mind. And I certainly by no means looked to people to fix that for me. In fact, I got to the point, and I almost both consciously and subconsciously worked to get to the point where I needed no people in my life, thinking that it was efficient, or I was streamlining the way that I had gotten.
It's really interesting because when we first started dating, it was really frustrating because you acted like you were interested in some ways. But then there was this feeling like you were also trying to hold me at arm's length at the same time, So it was like, looking back on it and knowing you now, I feel like I understand that there was a large amount of fear there, and you were like, I know this could be good, but I also feel like it could also be really bad.
Yeah.
And so it's like it was like a like push and pull, a combination push and pull, where sometimes, I just remember one time saying to you, in a moment of feeling really exuberantly connected to you, and I think we'd been together for a couple months at this point, and I said, let's grow old together. I remember you just laughed at me, and it was not like a mean-spirited laugh, but it was a laugh like you just didn't. There was no way that was happening.
Yeah, and I don't. That's the difference, I think, for me, is that I really didn't hold you at arm's length, or at least I didn't put any effort into doing so. What the difference was is that I genuinely was interested. The idea of having a successful long-term relationship didn't mean that much to me at that point.
Well, yeah, because I think that you didn't believe it was possible for you.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I know you say like, I don't, it didn't occur to you, or you didn't think that you were holding me at arm's length, but you also weren't opening up. And I think that's
no.
I think that's a big thing that people don't understand, is that, and I get it, because for a large portion of my adult life, I thought that I was very trusting and really open to people and a really good friend and all of these things. And then, when we started working with our therapist in 2016 together, who was, I've been in therapy pretty much my whole life. And, well, not my whole life, but I started when I was 19.
She started as a zygote. In
Basically doing therapy in the womb. I remember, like, I don't know if I told the story on here or not, but we were going through a really rough time. Magnolia was about 2 years old, and it just felt like it wasn't working. And I was very angry at you, and I felt like you were depressed all the time, and I felt like it was your fault. And, a friend of ours introduced us to this incredible therapist. And I remember I set up the meeting with him, and he sat and talked to us for about an hour, and he said, okay, I'd like to see you both together once a week. And then Bianca, I'd like to see you once a week. And I was like, what? Me? No, you meant to say Michael. I could not believe it. And then, I don't know, I think it was about 4 months in, I was like, oh, okay. I just didn't realize. I didn't realize how much was underneath there that was coming up. And, and I'll never forget one of the first things he said to us is we were on a FaceTime with him, and he pointed at both of us and he said, you are the problem and you are the solution. And I think that was such an important thing.
Meaning we're both of us are both.
Both of us are both. Yeah. And that it is never just one person. I think that is, it's a partnership in every sense, and that you're a team in a relationship. And I think that what I learned, besides so much about myself through our time with him and the therapy that we did together, which we worked very hard, both of us, and I'm really proud of us for everything that we worked through together, is that, I really do believe maybe there are some people that are not meant to be together, but I don't.
Of course.
Yeah, but I do think that if two people genuinely fall in love, I think that that's always there. I just think that some people aren't willing to do the work.
Well, right.
That's what I mean. Okay. Is like my point is that we went through a state where I looked at you and was like, this is the wrong person for me.
Yeah.
And then when we did the work, I recognized that what's so beautiful, I think, about human relationships is that our intuition and our subconscious knowing of ourselves is so attuned that we can, from across the way, single out someone energetically that is the perfect key to healing ourselves. And so you'll pick somebody who, at first will be amazing. And like for that first season of 3 months, that's why she said the season is because after 3 months, all the freak flags start to come out. So in the first 3 months, you're all on, endorphins and the dopamine's going crazy. And so you're blind really. And then all of a sudden, and you're both putting on your best behavior. And then after that time, it's like stuff starts to show itself that's real. And you go, wait a minute, this wasn't the person I was for 3 months, and that's when I have friends who like the first 2 weeks, they're like, he's the most incredible, perfect, and I'm like, maybe he is, but you can't tell that now. You don't know that right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, but the beauty of it is that like your intuition picks someone who is, if you allow it to be, ultimately perfection for your own healing. Now, maybe you aren't going to spend the rest of your lives together, but I do think that if two people are willing to get down and dirty and really do the work, and it's not for the faint of heart, it is soul crushing. I mean, you have to get vulnerable, and that means like when you're in an argument with someone, stopping yourself and looking at the way you're thinking about it and recognizing that like you're choosing old behaviors that you've probably done for your entire life that are defensive, that get you into an angry, hard place where it's impossible to talk to each other lovingly. And most people do that. The minute that something gets triggered, they're in a no-win situation with each other. And what we've had to do is we've had to, in those moments, slow ourselves down And it's so hard because I get it. Like, you want to be right. You want to be the one that's like, no, I'm bringing this up because you're the one who did something wrong. And then the other person's like, no, but you did something wrong. And it's like, no, that's not getting anywhere.
It's not getting you anywhere. I mean, I think that's a large part of why people are suffering by and large right now, because they just want to get online and
be right.
The liberal wants to yell at the conservative and vice versa. And the progressive hates the QAnon guy and Antifa this. And you know what I'm saying? I think that there's no room for kind of reasonable conversation because everyone's so emotionally charged in what they want to say.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw this video of this guy holding a sign up in Ottawa with the truckers convoy. Mm. For those of you that don't know, there's this, I don't know, thousands upon thousands of trucks that have converged into into Ottawa, and are saying they're going to stay there until Canada lifts the mandates. And there was this guy holding a sign, and he was so pissed off, and he was like, I can't remember what his sign said, but it was angry and unkind, and essentially was like, get the fuck out of here. And this woman walks up to him, and she just starts having a conversation with him. Mm. And she's like, I'm really proud of you. And he said, what? She's like, I'm really proud of you. It's hard to be the minority. And he like looks at her like, what? She's like, you're the only one here that's saying you don't want this. And all these other people are here very much together in solidarity. Yeah. And he goes, oh, yeah, you're right. And then she starts to say, we just want stuff to go back to normal too. And he was like, yeah. And it was so incredible to watch these two people very much do, and thanks to her calm and peaceful way of speaking with him, to both recognize that they really were fighting for the same thing. They really were asking for the same things.
Yeah. And even if there isn't anything fighting for, just that we all kind of feel and believe the same way. We really do.
I do. I really do think that this is the strangest and kind of saddest thing that has happened in these last couple of years, is that there has been so much made of what each side is saying or not saying or doing or not doing, and very little made of how aligned we actually are in what we want. Because I think
I don't know. I also don't think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I also don't think that when people do make those kind of human connections, you just don't see it. It's probably going on a lot.
But that's exactly my point, is that there is very little to be made of what there is in common. Like like you were saying, if it is there, nobody's showing it. And I think everybody's eyes are on news that's very one-sided, or
unless you're into great news with Kevin and Mike, available everywhere podcasts are available, and also on YouTube. Yeah, little gets made of it. But I also think that we just see things now. Take anything, whether it's important or not. Like the other night at dinner, when we were having that conversation with people where it's like, athletes in the good old days, fill in the blank. They had character. They stayed with the same team. And I was like, listen, all of your whimsical ideas about athletes in past generations, it's all just based on the fact that we didn't see their personal life like we do now.
Yeah.
And politicians and everyone. It's like we see stuff now. We see protests. We see on every section of the globe. We're constantly looking at protests, looking at fist fights, looking at, fill in the blank.
And not only that, but you see everything. And then depending on how you choose to see it based on your perception or your affiliation, then you've got algorithms that are continuing to make sure that you see it only in that way.
Yeah.
So then you're only seeing that one side of it. And, and also I just think like, I've been getting ready to get off Instagram, probably not in totality, but I'm setting up my website, as you know. to be able to put my writing out there.
Bluewaffle.net. Keep an open mind for it.
All the footage is shot by Michael himself.
All the footage, at least so far on your real website, it is shot by Michael.
It is shot by you, but it's also, yes, it's beautiful. It is. You took beautiful photographs.
I don't consider myself much of a photographer, but those are good photographs.
Well, you did have good direction.
It's true. And everything I do in life for the past 10 years, I get good direction.
Are you complaining?
On everything.
Are you complaining?
No. I'm going to go pee real quick. You want to tell me how to do it the right way?
Why are you being like that?
I was just joshing. I really do have to pee. Hold on.
But I hate it, and then you leave me alone here.
No, I can edit it out. You're a performer to millions of people. You're not comfortable being on a camera for a couple minutes?
Well, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's just that there's not much to say when you're not here.
Talk about the beautiful change in weather here in Texas.
It's very cold. It went from, I don't know, 70s or so, and now it's 22 degrees outside, which is why I'm wearing my lovely hat, but also because my hair is terrible. And we had little snow on the ground this morning, which was exciting. I've always wanted to live, well, I did when I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. There was snow quite a bit. But I missed that living in California, even though we could drive to it. You pee more than any person I know.
I drink a lot of water and a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of water, man.
Anyway, what I was saying was that I just don't think it's good. I don't think it's healthy for us to be, constantly inundated with all these images of other people's lives.
It's not.
I like even if it weren't for the fact that they're filtered and made to be perfect,
even if they were curated, I just don't think. I think, and there's been a lot wiser people than me who have.
There's wiser people than you.
I know it's hard to believe, who have come to this conclusion, but I've been interested in it and sampled these people's writings. That the brain, the Homo sapien brain, is actually really does have a limit to how many other Homo sapiens we're supposed to be really interacting with.
Is that true?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I believe it was Sebastian Junger. I believe it was Tribe, the book I read but it was like 120. They analyzed the people.
It makes sense. Yeah. Look, I'm so much happier now that we are on this land and we literally can't see a soul. And
you get a lot more me time, meaning time with me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But just not having to walk out the front door and engage in anyone else's opinion about anything is delightful.
Yeah.
I got scared for about 24 hours the day before we moved into the house. And I was like, it's a huge change going from Venice Beach, where literally you could reach out and touch our neighbor's house on either side, to nothing but trees and land. And
I could shoot firearms all the live long day, and people might hear it.
Our neighbors do,
but it's not very. You know what I'm saying? We are far away from other people, and it's very nice.
It's a good
balance.
It's a good medium, not medium. Median. Thank you. For us, because we did it right, because this place is rural, but we're still very close to Austin. To Austin, and 20 minutes to basically where Maggie goes to school, which is suburbia. It's completely every store you could want. And then 2 minutes the other direction is a little town that has, just a few basics. So I'm already feeling like we could go more rural. I feel that.
I'm fine with that. We're not moving. If you want to get a second home, when
What?
when your
Why not?
smash
I'm
hit
not saying-
streaming
I'm not-
series
I'm not
comes in.
saying tomorrow.
Please do whatever you
Why
can
do you
to
say-
stop doing that to that
what?
wire.
What?
Because if I have to redo this
sorry.
podcast again, because we did one before, it was her and I like 3 weeks ago, and I had audio to it. So like, if I have to do that again,
I'm sorry. I wasn't touching the wire. I was touching the little piece of plaster or whatever mess our daughter's making.
But we're not moving. If you want to get a second home,
But why?
In, like,
why? I mean, like in
Wyoming
in 10
Wyoming
years,
in the middle of
10
nowhere?
years, you might go like, yeah, we could go more rural and.
no, not me. I'm cool. I mean, that happens so much in our lives, right? Where you'll say like, well, what if we and I go, well, if you want that, I'm open to it, but I'm cool. Like, I really don't want to.
What if like someone buys the land next to us and all of a sudden you have like neighbors that you, or what if like, I mean, I just don't
If
think
it
you
became
can-
like a hotel or something, yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, listen, I'm open to it.
I know.
I obviously am. I think like it was so much to make it happen.
Well,
And I'm so comfortable now.
Yes. And it was really jarring. Like it happened, I think we told this in the other podcast, but it literally was like the last week in July, we came here, we looked at the school for Maggie, we saw the house online, we saw it on a virtual tour 2 days later, we made the offer, and a month later we were here. There was no time for the brain to even process.
I bought my first home without ever being in it.
Mike, I came and I did the inspection, and obviously if it wasn't great, I would have said like it, but it was amazing. It was perfect for us. It was very much us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lovely. It's so warm and cozy. And, I mean, we'll see how we feel about the warm and cozy part when it's like 115 degrees outside.
That's a damn good point.
It reminds me of part my childhood home, part the cabin that I grew up in. My parents had a lake place, and so it has a lot of really nostalgic feeling
Lake
to
Wenatchee?
it. Lake Wenatchee, yeah, in Eastern Washington. So, and it's an ideal place to really, let go of all that stuff that we tend to hold on to. And, I'm realizing the more and more that I can't kind of get into my writing, and I stop myself from perusing Instagram, and I feel very held here. I feel very much in line with the belief that everything is taken care of for us. That
much like Ellie, our therapist, used to tell us that you're the problem, you're the solution.
Yeah.
I think like I really do feel like, yes, we're in a much better place for us and for our daughter. But I also feel like if something arises that isn't, I'll fix it for myself,
Yeah. Well, and
I really have the confidence in that now. I don't know what, there was a traumatic shift in how I looked at the world, even not just my own life and depression and self-worth and all this stuff. There's a dramatic shift in how I looked at everything that exists in the world about, I would say, a year before. So like 2019, where I just care about so much less.
mm-hmm.
And I don't mean care in a compassionate way. I definitely care about people of the world and all creatures. I have a certain level of, but where I was like, I don't care what happens with fashion. I don't care about the new music trends. I don't care what fill in the blank celebrity had to say. I don't care what this guy wears and his style, and whether or not this style of jean is in this season. I just don't genuinely. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really give a shit.
But I think that like that is the part that the social media does that you're not even aware of. Like I really truly believe it's a subconscious, like slow, low grade brainwashing where you don't even realize how it has just insidiously sort of seeped in.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we got here and I was like pulling the stuff together in the house. And I love that. I mean, it's my favorite thing to do is decorate and make things feel homey and like us. And it's so interesting because I started to become aware of how much I was thinking like, this doesn't look perfect. This doesn't look like so-and-so's picture does on Instagram. And I was like, wow, it's so pervasive. You don't even recognize that it has totally infiltrated your ability to just be at peace by yourself, like just to be okay with things as they are. And so I actually started going in the opposite direction, which was like I would look at something and the only thing I would really allow myself to think about is, do I like this? Do I love this? Does it make me feel good? Does it serve a meaningful purpose for us, either in the function of our home or in, making life a little happier or brighter for us every day when we wake up? And I do think that could recognize that this shift had happened where my brain, instead of going, oh, this looks nice for me, would be filing through like old Instagram pictures in my head, thinking of what other people's stuff looked like. And that's so weird.
Yeah.
So
it's just strange.
And that's what I don't think people genuinely realize is how much it's affecting their ability to just love themselves as they are, because you're constantly going through a daily, feed of everything where everybody's picture is made to look like perfection. And then on top of that, it's put to music and it's got captions on it. And it's, oh, look at that little guy. I haven't seen one like that before yet. Have you? It looks like a little pigeon. There's so many. We have a little feeder right outside our dining room area.
With some sweet in it. Paul Saladino. He's very proud.
And so many birds. Oh my gosh. So many. I didn't know that there could be that different colors of
I didn't know that there's
plumage.
I didn't know that there's that much variety within just
one little spot.
One area.
Yes, that's what I mean. Obviously, I know in the world there are crazy, crazy creatures, but like to just have it in our backyard and they're so delightful to watch. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is and what I'm feeling and learning here more and more. I was saying this to you the other day. The call of my own heart and voice has been so strong here. Mm-hmm. When I do stray and do stuff that is not conducive to my best mental health, it gets really loud, and I feel it so strongly that just come on.
There's a little more awareness of it.
Put all that stuff away. Like, just be here. Just be in this moment with whatever's happening. And sometimes it's shit. Sometimes it's. I mean, I woke up one night here in a complete and utter terror because I was like, what? Who am I here? What if I never act again? What if I don't, figure out what is right for me to do for a living? Like, what the move in itself brought up so much. And so I was like, I had this feeling of like, I don't know who I am. And I'm learning to be with that and just sit in it and to recognize like, it can't hurt you. It can't hurt you to sit with those really uncomfortable feelings. Right. It's like the old saying, clouds can't hurt the sky. It's you are the sky, and everything that's happening is just the clouds moving across you. There might be thunder, there might be lightning, there might be tornadoes, but you're the sky. You're always there. You're what you truly are in your heart is always present and can sit in the worst of the worst and still be okay.
We always limit what we think we're capable of doing and tolerating and all that.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I was, we were talking about this. I mean, just to connect it to something as simplistic as being at the gym. I've thought that so much lately, where I think about, I'm about to turn 45 next month. Holy shit. What happened? That's so close to 50. And I was thinking about like what people think about when you think about like your mid 40s or your early 50s or even 60s, whatever, at 70s, 80s, and how you hear everybody say like, oh, my body just hurts. Like, that's just the way it goes. No,
it doesn't have to be.
No. Sure. And this is the thing, is that we are so quick to put a cap on what we're capable of. And I said this to you earlier today, right? About healing and about having things happen that are kind of beyond your wildest fantasies. And I really do believe that a big part of it is that, like, how terrifying would it be if you achieved those great things that you think are impossible? Like it's like me waking up in the middle of the night going, I don't know who I am. Like, who are you when you get to that place where so much of what you've wanted comes true? Then what?
Well, I think that's why so many really successful people and really wealthy people are so depressed. It's because there's an assumption that, something you are so passionate about, that you are just dead set on achieving this, whether it be a certain level of fame or a certain level of professional acclaim or a certain level of wealth. And it's not easy to do any of those things, or a certain level of achievement in sports. You realize, like, you're still the same woman, the same guy when you then achieve it. And it's like, that's got to be unbelievable. It's got to be mind blowing, because you're like, wait a second, I'm not living in heaven now. I'm not walking on water. Oh my God. Like, this isn't, yes, I have a lot of money. I have a Lamborghini and all the hot chicks in the world. I was like, but I still go to sleep at night. I'm the same guy. This is fucking terrifying.
Right. But that's because those people haven't contended with the man or woman in the mirror. They never sat with what they were and learned to love them just as they were so they've made it to that place and they still don't love that person. So I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just get to this place, then I don't think they specifically think then I'll love myself, but I think that's the idea, is like, oh, if I get there, everything will feel great.
Well, it was just like we were talking about with relationships. People assume that they're going to fill the missing hole, in,
right?
Whatever.
But what I'm saying is a little different. What I'm saying is, if you can imagine yourself achieving, let's just say something even as simple as, let's say you're really out of shape and you have this dream of
being in better shape.
Well, I was trying to think of like how like, that being in the best shape of your life, like really being strong and fit. What's going on? Our daughter's asking us if she can have a snack. Did you already have one of those today? You didn't?
I had one of the bars.
Oh, that's totally different. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, not just like, because that's the other thing is I think that we tend to set our goals lower for ourselves because that feels more attainable, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that you're saying like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna be, but let me put it this way. Who would you be if you woke up tomorrow and you were the healthiest you've ever been and in the best shape of your life? I feel like that's kind of like...
I'd be me.
You would?
I'd be myself.
Yes, you would, because you do the work. But I'm saying for a lot of people, but for you, it's something different, right?
Right.
I mean, what would it be for you? It would be, I don't know.
I really don't know. I don't think about it that much.
Maybe that's...
but I don't know if it is a problem. I think about what keeps me fulfilled and makes me feel like a human being moment to moment.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay, because I think that in some ways there is that limiting ceiling of what, because like you say to me all the time, you're like, well, I hurt my back. That's just, I'm in my 40s. So, so there's that self-limiting. Yeah. But like, okay, so let's say, to wake up tomorrow and to be in the absolute best health and best shape, no ailments, something that really is bothering you or is an illness that you're dealing with is gone. Like, if you think about that, it's kind of terrifying.
Well, and it also removes what should make it amazing when it would be gone the natural way. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you could wake up and have Bruce Lee's physique tomorrow, just just 24, just fall asleep and then you wake up in the morning. Eventually you're gonna lose sight of why that feels good. It won't feel good if you were to earn that. You would feel
well. Yes, but I also think. Listen, I'm not saying. I mean, let's say then it's not you wake up the next morning. Let's say a year from now you've gotten yourself in a mental place and you've done the work.
Where do you go from there?
But I think more of it is that like there's a part of us that like, who am I if I don't have my ailments? Who am I if I don't have the thing that I complain about all the time?
Who am I if I actually objectively looked at Trump or Biden? Who I wouldn't have my cool little anti-snowflake meme for a Twitter handle, or whatever it is.
Who am I? Who would I be if I was able to sit in my own beliefs so securely that it didn't matter what anyone else said or thought, because I know what I think and believe, and they can say and think whatever they want to believe. And I could still love that person and be around that person and absolutely feel non-threatened by that. But more importantly, I think even more specifically, about people attaining things that in their mind they go like, yeah, I would love to be in the best shape of my life, and I would love to be. Me. But I don't even think it's that. That's not for me. I think it's that you have so identified with the person that you are, with the limitations that you have, that you don't even think it's possible that there could be a version of you that is without those things. Yeah. And honestly, like I've sat with this. I've really tried to think like, gosh, if I didn't have, A, B, or C, that's a really, because then it puts the onus on you and it feels like you are actually more in control of life and your reality within it than anyone has ever led you to believe.
Right.
Because we're all kind of feel like, oh, it's, we're victims of fate. We're at the mercy of however life unfolds. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true anymore. I actually think that our minds are so powerful, and yet we have been raised in this culture that just continuously confronts us with our limitations to the point that we don't even listen to our own bodies anymore. We think we have to go to somebody to be told what's wrong with us.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost like being devoid of mental, physical, spiritual pain seems like it's surreal to most. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, yes, that sounds utopian, but that's not real. In reality, I have low back pain. In reality, I'm going to die of diabetes. In reality,
do you want to know? You want to know something really interesting? I'm reading that book about ecstasy, not the drug, but actual
the human experience,
ecstatic experience. And what's really fascinating is that at a certain point in the 1800s, actually probably it was even earlier than that. I'm always terrible with dates, but people, there's so many stories and people that we know about, Joan of Arc and Saint Teresa of Avila, like people who had channeled messages and heard voices and
guidance from beyond.
And what happened is that slowly they started to poo-poo anybody having any sort of religious ecstatic experience, and to the point that in psychiatry they started to label it as mental illness. Yeah. And so people who would have these occurrences would actually not talk about
There's only a certain level of happy you can be that's healthy. You understand?
but we it altered. Yeah. It used to be that, in a lot of indigenous cultures, a person who is having like what we would deem a psychotic break is actually made the tribe oracle. Yeah. And people go to that person to hear about their future, or to, they put these people up on a pedestal because they've had a gift.
I think it's beautiful in a pure sense, but that can go so south so quickly. But what if someone who's having this guidance is truly psychiatrically ill? Like Charles Manson is a perfect example.
I understand.
He was looked at as this oracle.
Okay, right. But with these people, it hasn't been handled the way that ancient cultures would have handled it.
No.
So yes, maybe the deal is that these people do go down a sordid path because no one is there to hold them in the experience that they're having and actually point them to the right, or not even, I wouldn't say the right, because I don't believe that there's a right or wrong, but to be held in that journey of experiencing
if Charles Manson grew up in a purely loving and considerate environment that was devoid of like money and structured, religious ideas, you're probably right. He wouldn't become a 38-year-old.
But so like in the hospitals, there used to be nuns. Yeah. And there
still is in like religious. Right. I mean, there's a lot of Catholically owned hospitals.
But in all hospitals, it used to be nuns. And then they politicized this and they there was a movement to remove the nuns so that nurses would be in place so that they could have a separation of church and state.
Right.
And the thing that happened in that was that there was no longer an appreciation or a holding of space for people that were having these experiences of a religious nature or of an ecstatic nature. And they would just say, no, you're actually mentally ill.
Yeah.
And I just think it's fascinating because I believe that we are all, I think it's crazy that, you hear in the Bible and any sort of old text, there's a lot of talk of people hearing voices or being led in certain directions. You don't hear that anymore. If you hear that, it's about a crazy person.
Yeah, you commit that person.
We were watching that show Messiah, right? Mm-hmm. And we were talking about like, if somebody came forth today and said, I am the Son of God, and here are my miracles.
Not if. I used to hear it quite often in Venice. I mean, I'm being serious. That's actually pretty common, is this messianic kind of condition, for people who are severely ill. I can remember one guy clearly who was screaming that he was Jesus. And was, the cops were trying their best to contain it because he was loud and screaming and claiming he's the Son of God. And
I mean, my point is in this kind of ramble is just that, not that if you hear voices that you shouldn't maybe speak to somebody that can hold you through that.
Well, we got to make clear there's a difference. Actual disembodied voices isn't necessarily the same thing as getting something super powerful that you've never felt before that is guiding you from beyond.
Right. But I don't even know if maybe some of the voices, who knows? I mean, I think the point is that where medicine has gotten involved, there's very little understanding of what actually is occurring or taking place. And I think there are a lot of cultures that have much more elegant and meaningful ways of dealing with these kinds of things. But my point in bringing this up at all is just that I believe we have been led so far from ourselves, and that for most people, there is a complete and utter disconnect from their true and sincere ability to take themselves to places that they would never dream possible.
Absolutely. I think the mental limitations that we put on ourselves are probably so much more extensive and strong than we even know. Like
100%.
We constantly, and I'm not saying this as do as I say, not as I do. I'm that guy too. And I think it's become so, as you said, it's become so ubiquitous and pervasive that you don't even sometimes realize you're doing it, that you could be and do so much more, but you're telling yourself like, well, this is where I have to cut it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got to wrap this up. This is like a Joe Rogan episode at this point.
Yes.
After you and Maggie came through,
are we making
blessed me.
His paycheck?
I'm working on it, honey. In this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares.
We do.